Welcome back to Candy's Classic Game Shrine, everyone. And today, on Return to the Third Dimension, we're going to look at a homebrew game demo called Mario VB. The Mario VB homebrew was created by George, a Virtual Boy community member and one of the big brains behind the View engine. George started working on Mario VB around 2006-2007. Around this time, he was finishing his engineering career and happened to be able to afford bringing a Virtual Boy all the way from the US back to Ecuador. He had always been intrigued by it, even back in 1996, and now he can finally own one. Combine all of this with his experience with programming languages like C, C++, and a few others, and he was ready to dip his toes into the Virtual Boy homebrew scene. He found libgccvb, a GCC library compiler for the Virtual Boy, just by chance, and after struggling to get it working, he decided to start off doing basic stuff like loading an image and moving it around. It wasn't much, but it's all he needed to get hooked. He was so hooked, in fact, that he incorporated the Virtual Boy into his final university project. His intention was to develop something that could be used by other people and that runs on an actual Virtual Boy, not just emulators. With his basic soldering skills and the parts for projects like this not being readily accessible, he tried and tried for 2 months until he had a functional, programmable cart. Sourcing parts for crafting your own carts, especially for a Virtual Boy, were not that easy to come by back then, especially in Ecuador. He had to resort to getting an old EEPROM programmer from India, a Virtual League baseball cart, and other electronic components that all took a good deal of time to find and arrive. Once he had all the equipment in place, he was able to finally make some progress. He started trying to modify existing code and move some images around the screen. After that was accomplished, he started writing code to move them in 3 dimensions while transforming the images using the Virtual Boy's capabilities through affine transformations. Next, he implemented collisions. Afterwards, he implemented animations and was using Super Mario RPG's graphics for his experiments. He already knew he wanted to make a Mario platformer for the Virtual Boy, and since he always liked the pre-rendered graphics of that game, he found them fitting. Since he was aiming to make a platformer game for the Virtual Boy, he also needed to implement background scrolling. With all of the above in place, it was time to implement stage streaming. He was aiming to have big stages with enough variety. It was at this point that Mario's first stage had been created. Eventually this would turn into the demo that you know, and now he had almost all the pieces to try his hand at making an actual Mario demo. And that happened when Chris, another homebrew creator I've covered, sent him some graphics that the community got off Mario Clash. It was a huge jump in quality. Then he tried to mimic the Winter CES footage of the cancelled Mario VB game in his demo. Eventually he implemented the ability to move between the foreground and background layers. He always wanted to create some gameplay that involves controlling the movement between the layers to make it less automatic like it was in the Wario game. He still thinks this demo has a lot of potential and could be a lot of fun. Then he added backgrounds and other enemies. And then finally, in 2008-2009, George was confident in what he had created and entered his demo in the Planet Virtual Boy competition. I know I definitely voted for him. I was in love with his demo because I wanted more platformers like this on the system. After the competition, he got a little burned out and distanced himself from the community for a bit, and decided to focus on his philosophy studies. Around 2013, Chris wrote to George about having built this demo from its sources, but having trouble getting it to work. He was flattered by the fact that Chris deemed it worth his time and was actually trying to build something with it. And just like that, his love was sparked again, and it brought him back to the Virtual Boy homebrew scene. Since then, he and Chris have been working most of the time on the demos and little programs, all built with a new engine, now known as the View engine. Both Chris and George agreed that Mario should no longer be used as the main character of the demo, and that they should both produce their own assets to avoid any chance of copyright infringement. So now the semi-infamous Mario VB has turned into the platformer demo, which has been kept up to date with their engine's latest version and since then runs on View Engine 7, at least as of the filming of this video. As happy as George was to see the Mario VB demo come to fruition, he's not going to be touching it again, at least anytime soon. He has his hands full right now with Formula V and the new development of a new and easier development environment for the View engine. With that said, George said he'd be more than happy to help anybody that may want to continue working on it, using the platformer's demo code as a base starting point. There aren't many things that he would have done differently, since he's been able to accomplish them in the platformer demo. It feels the old code is an ugly mess compared to the current engine, and it may be true. However, it showed us that the Virtual Boy has so much potential for fun and unique platformers had Nintendo just given things a chance. At its core, this is a pretty impressive, albeit somewhat sloppy demo that leaves me wishing Nintendo had finished their Virtual Boy Mario game or just offered more platformers like this in general. The controls are kind of stiff, but not a handicap in any way. Mario can run, travel between the foreground and background, hold and throw Koopa shells, and even has a subtle idle animation where his eyes blink. It's a shame there's no interactions with the blocks, but considering this is someone's first homebrew, I totally get it. This demo features roughly 20 seconds of a loop for music. It's not the best sounding, but for the time it was one of the most involved music tracks included in a homebrew. While playing the game, you can press select and enter a debug mode of sorts, where you can change the perspective or depth of the 3D, and you can also scroll back and forth through the level without having to move Mario. Be warned that if you go beyond the tower at the end, your game will crash. The demo itself is short and will take a person about a minute or two to complete. The 3D effect was done really well and took advantage of what the Virtual Boy had to offer. Overall, I feel like this is a demo everyone should check out. So that was my review of Mario VB for the Virtual Boy. Let me know what you guys thought of the video in the comments below. And until next time, guys, take care.